With President Trump taking direct aim at our economy, his goal is to take every single business out of our country, out of our province, and bring it down to the U.S. But I'll tell you, I will fight like I've never fought before, and we're going to continue fighting against President Trump and his radical views.
You think political theater's dead? Well, you're about to be way off. Picture this: Canada, not a small player, lighting up the headlines with a barbed warning. We cannot have division. You can't let someone hit you over the head with a sledgehammer without hitting him back twice as hard. That was Ontario Premier Doug Ford, and Canada was front and center in his retort. Let's get into it. Canada is no couch warmer in global trade disputes, especially when its closest neighbor, the U.S., slams the door with sweeping tariffs that threaten jobs and industries. Canada reacted, and not with timid diplomacy. On July 31, 2025, Ford told reporters that Canada had no choice but to hit back, and hit back hard.
PC party leader Doug Ford said Canada had no choice but to hit back, and hit back hard.
He explicitly urged Prime Minister Mark Carney not to roll over in the face of U.S. President Trump's actions. That line, sharp, to the point, dramatic, framed the central narrative: Canada fighting back. So what exactly happened? Let's go back to February 1st, 2025. That's when Trump ignited a trade war, imposing sweeping tariffs, 25% on most Canadian imports and 10% on energy products. Canada retaliated almost immediately. 25% tariffs on $30 billion, roughly 21, of U.S. goods, expanding after 3 weeks to a much broader package. Provinces joined in. Ontario, led by Doug Ford, cut off American booze from the LCBO. Quebec, BC, Manitoba followed in kind.
The US is giving us the best trade agreements in the world. It's time to focus our efforts on strategic sectors: steel, aluminium.
That's the timeline and the flashpoint, when and where it happened. Canada, led federally by Trudeau, then Carney, after March 2025, and provincially by Ford and others, stood united, defending economic borders with strategic tariffs and symbolic actions like the "Canada is not for sale" hat that Ford wore, keeping Canada defiant and front of mind. Chronologically, from Trump's tariff declaration on February 1st to simultaneous Canadian tariffs on March 4th, then the staggered expansion of Canadian measures. On February 10th, Trump added steel and aluminum tariffs. Canada answered back, targeting U.S. alcohol, clothes, appliances, and more. Everywhere, the narrative grows. The tensions escalate. Trump's rationale was to reduce the trade deficit, push Canada on border and fentanyl enforcement, and revive U.S. manufacturing. Canada viewed these moves as economically damaging and politically aggressive, calling them violations of the USMCA. Ontario, especially Ford, saw Trump's actions as existential threats to Canadian industry and unity.
You know, my message to the U.S., and if I go on U.S. media, be it CNN or whoever, my message to the Americans: this does not work. Tariffs do not work. I've been listening to Ronald Reagan a lot, and you know, tariffs are terrible for the global economy. What it does is reduce competitiveness, and it has more of a monopoly. People rely on government handouts, and what that causes? That causes inflation.
Immediate effects included disruption of supply chains, higher prices, political pressure across Canada, and mass buy Canadian sentiment. Boycotts soared. A BC liquor store with empty shelves became a visual symbol of the boycott. Polls showed 91% of Canadians wanted less reliance on the U.S. Provinces restricted American goods. Canada and Mexico filed WTO complaints. Businesses scrambled.
As I mentioned to the Prime Minister, we don't know what President Trump will do. And to be very frank, I think sometimes I don't even think he knows what he's going to do from day to day. But
that viral "Canada is not for sale" hat by Ford rallied national pride, selling over 45,000 units and even 150 in the U.S. Ford's line about hitting back doubled became shorthand for Canada's resolve, and Ford even joked he'd rather buy U.S. states than become one. As of August 2025, about 85% of trade remains tariff-free due to USMCA exemptions. Prime Minister Carney has eased some retaliatory tariffs to restart talks, dropping fees on compliant goods, though maintaining those on steel, aluminum, autos. Negotiations are expected to continue into 2026, feeding uncertainty. So what's next? Trade war fatigue is real, but Canada's tone is firm. Some see diplomacy, others fear continued tit-for-tat escalation. Carney, Ford, Trudeau, they're still set on guarding Canadian sovereignty and interests. That's how Ontario's Doug Ford ignited a narrative fit for a political thriller. Canada didn't cower, it rallied, it pushed back twice as hard. You've just witnessed Canada's defiance. It's politics playing out in tariffs, headlines, and hats.
Well, first of all, this guy's not going to stop. You can either run away or, fall down and wave the white flag. We should never do that. We should hit him back twice as hard, and I've said this to the Prime Minister. If you roll over, this guy just keeps beating you and beating you and beating you. No.
What does that mean for the future of North American trade? Is diplomacy next, or is this fight far from over?
What's clear is that Canada has drawn a line in the sand. Doug Ford's fiery remarks and the nationwide response weren't just about economics. They were about pride, sovereignty, and sending a message that Canada won't be bullied on the global stage. This clash has reminded many Canadians of past trade wars, but the difference now is the sheer scale of public support for striking back. The broader impact extends far beyond tariffs. Small businesses, farmers, and manufacturers are all feeling the shockwaves, while everyday consumers face rising prices. Yet out of that pressure has come a surge of Canadian resilience. New domestic supply chains, stronger regional cooperation, and a political unity rarely seen in recent years. Whether this momentum holds depends on how long the trade standoff drags on and whether Washington recalibrates its approach. So the question remains, will this be remembered as the moment Canada stood tall against its largest trading partner, or the spark that lit a long, bitter economic feud? Only time will tell. One thing is certain, the story is far from over, and the stakes for both nations couldn't be higher.
This fight far from over. Thanks for watching. If you dig stories where economy and politics collide, hit that subscribe button, leave your thoughts below, and ask yourself, how far would your country go to defend itself?